Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in ET Auto Connected Vehicle Virtual Summit. I think you had a great start to the event today. We had a very engrossing presentation by Mr. Rajendra Singh Sachdeva, and also Rajiv did a great job in terms of giving data and insight on the subject today. Here, next panel discussion is very pertinent and it covers very holistic point of view on the connected and mobility. The topic is rightly put smart mobility advancement in a post COVID world. We have seen COVID has probably transitioned us fastest possible manner to a new world. Every normal has become obsolete almost, and we are exploring every day and experiencing new normal in such a scenario. How smart mobility is going to shape up whatever we were projecting in the earlier life. Is it still relevant, or are we going to steer somewhere out and build a new path of smart mobility when it comes to? So I have experts and industry leaders, veterans who are going to give us good dope on this. Let me introduce to you Mr. Deepak Shetty, who is Deputy CEO and Managing Director, JCB India. JCB is one of the leading construction equipment manufacturer. You will wonder why did I bring, but I think construction manufacturing is something we're connected, and that is also part of mobility, maybe off highway. So that's a very important, relevant point that we need to raise today. We also have Mr. Suresh KV, President ZF India. ZF is Germany's one of the biggest, or you can say Europe's one of the biggest auto component manufacturer. They are one of the biggest suppliers of transmission system and a lot of component which has connected features are their forte. We also have Mr. Pratap Dev Nayagam, country head and managing director of Harman India. Harman India is one of the biggest infotainment instrument provider, and that's one of the you can say center point or control point for any connected or smart mobility when we talk about it. At last, we also have you can say the link that connects every dot here is communication. So we have here with me Bhaskar Ghosh, Head of Business Development and Sales, Connected Automotive Solutions at Tata Communications. He takes care of entire Asia. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking out time and joining us today. To begin with the topic, I would just like to have quick view from all of you, just 30 minutes view on how do you see the smart mobility advancement in a post-COVID world. Has it changed completely, or you think some features or some elements of smart mobility that were probably delayed or slowing has paced up? How things have changed when we talk about smart mobility after COVID? I'll start with you, Suresh.
Okay, thanks, Nabil. That was a wonderful introduction, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to present ourselves. ZF is extremely happy to be contributing to these webinars. I think I have a little bit of a different view here, Nabil. Yes, COVID has impacted a lot of our lives, be it office, be it the physical distancing, or be it the way we look at safety. But when it comes to smart mobility, I tend to believe that there has been I would say, a measured impact. I won't say that it's a big impact, but it's a measured impact. While the industry was already looking at safety, already looking at connected vehicles from a different perspective, it becomes relatively more important only because now that there is a good percentage of people working from home today. It is very important that, even from today, we are able to understand the performance of a truck or a bus, or even when it comes to JCB, how a machine performs in a remote area. Maybe at that point in time, prior to COVID, it was good enough if we had connected to the offices wherein the network was strong. We had our own hardware and infrastructure working well, or rather a lot of investment going into the servers or the clouds, etc. But now It may be that the person or a service engineer is sitting from his remote office and then trying to locate how the vehicle or the machine is performing. So from that perspective, the connected vehicle syndrome or the software development related to that has gathered momentum. I think this will only help us accelerate. I don't see anything negative happening because of COVID as far as the smart mobility is concerned. The safety remains prime. Safety continues to take the top position as far as human lives are concerned, not only in terms of COVID, but also in terms of how we perform on the road. It is also important to understand that even prior to COVID, we had less and less skilled drivers for these commercial vehicles as well as buses. Now, which means that the skill factor needs to get diminishing, has to get diminished, and the consistency with respect to the machines has to start improving. So over a period of, I would say that the safety of, be it a driver, be it a passenger, or more important, a pedestrian on the road remains critical. The connected vehicle helps us to monitor all these vehicles. So I would only say COVID has impacted it, but I would say that it's a measured impact. Thank you.
It has further given pace to the smart mobility adaptation that we were hoping. Deepak, your take on it, quickly.
First of all, thank you, Nabil, for having me here. I think it's a very interesting subject, and congratulations for selecting a subject which is relevant, but ever so relevant in the present times. Smart mobility is something that we have not started working during the COVID times, but this is something that JCB introduced in 2015. And since then, the whole platform has only developed. But what happened during COVID times is something very heartening, how we could harness this. So normally a smart mobility connect is more looked at from the use of the machine or from the GPS, the location of the machine, geofencing. But our excavators are not only assets, but they are also revenue generators. So one of the biggest challenges we saw during COVID times is with all the lockdowns, it was very difficult to get a measure of what's happening on the ground. But we were very fortunate on that aspect because we have more than 160,000 machines which are connected with us. And these machines, which are connected on our IoT telematics-based platform, JCB LiveLink, speak to us every day. And during worst of the COVID times, we were keeping a close watch. And then what we saw, particularly during the month of later part of April and early May, we saw that in the rural areas, the machine utilization is improving. And that utilization chart, as we started drawing up, economists, they talk about whether the recovery will be a V-shaped, L-shaped, U-shaped.
Connected features utilization or smart features utilization is improving. That's what.
Yes. So basically, the utilization of the machine, which the machine was telling us. So that was a very, very important feature. And based on that communication, it gave us confidence. And then along with that, we are one of the first companies to have an app where we sell the genuine parts. So we started connecting as the customer utilization improved. We started backing them up with better quality service, backing them up with an opportunity. So I'll just give an example. During the COVID times, our sales of parts on the genuine parts app increased, I think, 10 to 15 times compared to the normal period. And what we found is, though the machines are being used in the rural areas, the rural customer is using apps to connect with us to buy parts. And that told us that something special is happening. And that also gave us the confidence that in spite of COVID, there's a lot of activity taking place. And from May, June, July, August, this whole thing has completely, continuously been reinforced. And it talks about a very classic V-shaped recovery from the utilization point of view. So if we didn't have this connectivity with the machines, we would not have known. The other element which I want to also mention is on construction equipment side, it goes much beyond, again, the part. It is also about how the machine is utilized. The data points are very critical because the uptime of the machine is very critical. So in a proactive manner, we can hear from the machine if there are any problems, and very proactively, we can reach out to our customers. So I'll talk a little more about this later, but I feel the whole smart mobility space it has started revolutionizing, and it will completely revolutionize the way the whole construction activity is carried out in the field. So there are huge opportunities on that front. And
Certainly.
COVID has probably opened those doors much faster than they would have been normally opened, or made us think about this more aggressively.
Pratap, have you noticed any kind of change in terms of demand of specific features which relates to a smart mobility after COVID? Has it outnumbered your expectation that you probably had in a pre-COVID time, or the situation is completely normal?
Nabil, before I come to your question, just to address the top level topic of smart mobility in the context of post-COVID. So COVID has kind of accelerated the concept of smart mobility, because now there is a lot of importance around the social distancing aspect of our lives. And so the crowd management is going to become an important aspect of how we are going to manage such pandemics in future, be it at the last mile connectivity part, or venues, or even during the transportation, right? And the key element of this whole smart mobility stuff is real-time data. So the post-COVID scenario is going to accelerate the consumption of real-time data, which in turn will drive the whole concept of smart mobility. So devices, vehicles, infrastructures, venues, everything would be connected through real-time data, which should again be accelerated through the proliferation of 5G. And that is what is going to elevate the overall smart mobility, in particularly in the context of our country. Now, in terms of the demand post COVID, as you know, there is a short-term or a mid-term reset to the whole concept of shared mobility because of the concerns of social distancing. So people are moving back to personal mobility. So the post-COVID scenario in the automotive sector is there's a huge spike in terms of demand, at least in the last quarter of this year, and that naturally translates into a lot of connected features based vehicle penetration. So we are seeing a lot of OEMs increasing their demand for connected features in their vehicles. And even if you follow the recent new model launches, every new model launch is increasing the host of features that's being offered to the end users in terms of enhancing the overall user experience. Look at the B segment cars. If you rewind 3 years back, most probably we had handful of connectivity features in a B segment car. And now today we are talking about close to 50 plus connectivity features offered for the end users, right from tracking, tracing, vehicle health monitoring, and also providing some meaningful content for consumption while on the go. So that's where it's evolving.
Thank you so much, Pratap. I'll come to you, Bhaskar. It's your turn now. And the key word is connectivity. And if we talk about connectivity, it is coming out as one of the biggest challenge when we talk about connected or smart mobility or intelligent mobility. How are you dealing with this challenge? And is there any other challenge, specific challenge you are facing while you serve or service your connected car projects?
First of all, thanks, Nabil, for inviting me for this wonderful, discussions around smart mobility. And definitely, yeah. So the buzzword is connectivity, and there are a few more which I came across just now from Deepak, Suresh, and Pratap about the quality of services, right? The kind of data that is getting generated from all the remote services, and even if it is work from home. So data consumptions are getting higher and higher, right? And when the proper pipe is not there, you are not able to justify the uses of those applications, uses of those different use cases that is supporting the smart mobility journey across, right? So the challenges definitely are there, right? So we have more and more user riding on the network infrastructure, a huge number of devices, huge number of machineries that's riding on on the wheels, generating petabyte of data from edge to cloud, and then the seamless journey from this entire thing is dependent upon entirely the network layer, which is connectivity again, right? So if you see right now, initially we being using 2G network for the voice calls. Right now it's more and more data going to the 4G network, and we are now people are started talking about the 5G, which is again going to be a buzzword next word to in next couple of years to onboard all those use cases smoothly, right? So the challenges is the black hole and the spaces where you are not getting seamless connectivity from the single operator, right? So we have three major operators in India. One is operator which don't have the entire 4G network, so riding on the 2G. 2G is going away slowly and slowly. So definitely, when you want to have everything connected, you need a seamless connectivity platform as well as backend, the network support from there. So I see the challenges in India that first of all, for this all IoT and M2M use cases, we don't have the proper bandwidth to support that. Definitely, we are utilizing most of it. But when you talk about the more and more software optimization to these devices, you need broader pipe, okay, as well as supporting millions of devices in place. So here what we do in Tatacom right now, supporting multiple operator services within the same infrastructure, be it a UICC, which is a eSIM embedded card inside the device, supporting multiple network, okay, which means that if you don't get a single operator in a specific area in India, then you can seamlessly latch on to the other operator to give a the smooth journey from the device to cloud. So yes, there are challenge, and then the solutions are there, and definitely with the entire industry from the automotive side, OEM, system integrator, we can definitely address those areas very aggressively and a bit.
Thank you, Bhaskar. I'll come to you, Suresh. If we talk about automobiles, on an average, 35 to 40 ECUs are there, and this number is going to increase further. Similarly, the electronics, overall electronics content or mechatronics is going to increase in automobiles. This is going to further enhance the complexity. Thus, the risk of being hacked and other concern increases. How do you think this can be managed? Do you think going forward a supervisory ECU kind of setup, or how do you see this evolving when we talk about smart mobility? Because vehicles are growing smarter, complexities are coming, more and more software lines are being written, and if we know that every 100 lines of coding has at least 2 3 mistakes, errors, so in such a complex scenario, what are the countermeasures or the precautions that the automotive manufacturers or the suppliers are taking?
I think it's a very important question. As we move up in the technology curve, the risk related to the technology also comes in. Now, is there an easy way out here? I don't think so. There is a maturity, there is a learning curve attached to it, and then we get to the maturity level. But definitely we can learn from others. For example, if you look at it, when the banking system introduced the software a couple of decades ago, we know very clearly that there were many loopholes, and all those loopholes got closed over a period of time. Today, we say that it is much more secure than it was 10 years back or 20 years back. However, it is important for us to understand that we can learn from them, but there will be definitely new challenges. And I think it's a good idea which you mentioned, like there will be a mother ECU or a overall ECU which takes care of all the other softwares or the control units, etc. Maybe that's one of the ideas. But definitely, if you look at ZF today, apart from the other divisions, we have one division only looking at electronics, which is whereas if you look at it traditionally, ZF was a clear-cut player in the transmission arena or in the mechanical areas. But now we are manufacturing radars, we have electronics, etc. So it's very, very important that we develop codes to ensure that it is not hacked. However, we will have to learn together, and there as you rightly said, it is not only the OEMs, it's a joint work between the OEMs and the tier one suppliers to see how we can make it as risk-free as possible.
Deepak, I come to you, and then the scenario is completely different for you. For passenger vehicles or those, it's more about, the comfort or utility of the user. But for you, it is more about the business point for the user and owner of your vehicles, construction equipments. So in your case, these smart features become even more important. So threats there is even very, very, very high if you look at that. And in terms of impact of those threats are also high, because people are putting their money and they are trying to earn money back from the investment. It's more of ROI kind of relationship with your products. In your scenario, how things are changing when you talk about vehicle to infrastructure communication, because that's very important. So how are you trying to secure those area of concern for your users?
So Nabil, very well, very good question, I would say, because it's very pertinent. So there are two elements. The first element that you talked about earlier is the quality of the software, which is controlling the asset. So the simple mantra there is testing, testing, and testing. We take our machines to the remotest parts of the country. We subject them to the most arduous applications. And during this whole process, the machines are very closely monitored 24/7. Second thing is, during the testing and validation process, we take a lot of feedbacks from the operators, because they are in those machines sometimes for 18 hours, 20 hours. So they feel, and their feedback becomes very, very important. On top of this, the softwares that we put are, we build the best of the firewalls. They are at the international standards, so that those security features become very important. The last but not the least, and the most important part, is the safety. And part of that safety is also how you train the operator to use those machines, how you train the operator. So we run very meticulous training programs, first for our own people, second for our 6,500 dealer engineers, the service engineers who support the machine, and then for the operators. Because we want the operators to use the machines in a most efficient manner, but also the most safe manner. So it is a big task, let me tell you. But we have got very strict systems and processes in place, particularly as a part of our new product introduction process. I was very heartening to hear Suresh speak about ECUs. So on our machines also, there are a lot of ECUs, not only in the engine environment, but right from even the fans, I would say, are controlled. So the application, the use of electronics is huge in our machines. And then on top of it, it has to communicate from the performance parameters point of view. For example, I'll just give an example. We have launched the Intelli series. So our compactors, the amount of compaction which is happening, the machine is communicating back to the operator and telling them that do we need, based on the soil strata, do we need more compaction or not? So then the operator has to understand this feedback which is coming back to him or her, so that they are able to use that feedback more effectively. So for us, it is as you rightly said, it is more complex than just the machine going on four wheels. But we have got very strong systems processes, and also I would really compliment our engineers who have worked on this. But as Suresh alluded to, it is not only the OEM companies, but the role played by the solution partners, because we build the machines, we engineer the machines, we design the machines, but there is a very close partnership which happens with the solution providers who help us in tweaking this and ensuring that the software which goes in, first of all, is debugged. It does not have any problem. Particularly, one thing I'm very concerned is on the safety side. There cannot be absolutely any compromise on that front. And then we ensure that only after very robust testing and validation, we give the machines in hands of our customers.
Thank you, Deepak. Pratap, I'll come to you. Look at the features that are being provided in terms of connected. Globally, also, we see that a lot of features remain lying idle. many do not know how to use that. In such a scenario, do you think there is a need to rationalize the features again? We are talking about misuse, but we are failing to talk about unused features which pose threat, but they are not used by a lot of users. So, how can we, balance this scenario?
So Nabil, exactly in a recent survey of consumers across the three major regions, many of the consumers have responded that yes, the technology adoption is increasing year over year in every new model that's being launched. But at the same time, they also expressed concern in terms of their ease of use. So this is the challenge that is in front of the OEMs and the ecosystem partners. As to while we build the technology, we'll also have to take care of the ease of use for the consumers, so that finally the application benefit reaches the consumers. And once you break that barrier, and once the consumers get comfortable with the overall user experience of these technologies in the car, then naturally this problem will get addressed. And that's one of our key areas of focus in Harman. So we are part of the experiences per mile advisory council. So the key measurable here is how can we enhance the experience of the user in the car, which means his ability to use and experience the technology being provided in various forms and factors.
Thank you, Pratap. Bhaskar, I just want to understand when your some partner, a car maker or any vehicle manufacturer reaches you to support them in a connected vehicle program, how do they rank features, or what are the priority order when they come and strike a deal with you? What do they want actually?
So the most important thing that the OEMs wants is the seamless connectivity. Means, as I mentioned during when I spoke about the challenges, so that is the solution that they want, is the seamless connectivity. So vehicle communicating to the servers back to the cloud has to be seamless journey towards the real time data. It cannot be holding the data and then send it offline. This is not possible today in the scenario of real data transmissions, right? So seamless connectivity is one of the area that they look at from the partnership point of view, and ranking the partners in a chronological order. And then the flexibility in terms of cross-border connectivity. So right now, this is not only India; it's something which is going across the globe, right? So they definitely want somebody supplying the connectivity across the globe, rather than having multiple contracts with the different operators and partnership. The reason being, Nabil, basically, there are different regulations as well towards the connectivity. It's not only the seamless connectivity; it's also about the the country-specific regulations on around M2M services. So, for example, Brazil and China follow the permanent roaming, where you cannot roam on a scenario of going towards non-local operators, right? So in that case, you need a local operator onboarded onto your devices. Uh, and again, OEMs need to get into a different contracts on those countries. So definitely managing those contracts in a different countries, logistical challenges, everything brings back them in a different order, where they want some partner where they can bring a single solution across the globe. So these are the two criteria which they see, and then definitely quality of services, definitely something they want. As we mentioned, Deepak mentioned about that, that the quality is foremost important for the OEMs. That it has to be always up and running, whether it is in a remote area or wherever it is. So this is the three criteria where the OEM choose the connectivity partner.
Thank you, Bhaskar. So far, we talked about the smart mobility or intelligent mobility from the user point of view. Let's sit back and come to the product basis, how do you want to develop a smart product, smart mobility solutions? How do you develop a smart car? How do you develop a smart, farm equipment, or you make a construction equipment which are smart? Suresh, how do you see the architecture of a vehicle changing? How do you see the progress in terms of automotive parts? How intelligent are they becoming? Because in intelligent or smart mobility should be safer, secure. India is a country which is global capital when it comes to death because of road accidents. In such a scenario, safety becomes very important. How much of better designed or smartly developed vehicle can contain these depths?
It's a good point of view wherein we look at how do we apply these concepts to an scenario in India. I strongly believe that the safety can be achieved by two aspects. One, we have to have the improved infrastructure on the vehicles, which you rightly said. But the second important aspect is the compliance to the rules and regulations by the drivers, which means the skill of the drivers. And if that also can be a little bit managed by reducing the influence on the drivers on the driving of the vehicle, which is, if you look at a simple example, let us take a traditional transmission on a car or even a commercial vehicle. Today we are talking about AMTs and ATs, wherein you see you don't have to have that skill which a driver needed to have in the past when he is using an AMT or an AT today. When it comes to an AT, I think it is very less. The skill of the driver needed is very less. So it's most of the things are taken care by the vehicle itself. Now, how does that happen? The transmission remains more or less the same, but then there are AMT kits which are added onto it, which has a extremely good connectivity to the various transmission, to the entire transmission system of the vehicle. Now, this is applicable for a car, this is applicable for a bus or a commercial vehicle, which is very normal. But I feel what is important for us to notice, it is applicable for any moving vehicle. Be it an off-highway vehicle or be it an on-highway vehicle. So I think it's very, very important that the infrastructure improves. The architecture has changed. The entire bus, the excitement when Tesla was launched was to see the difference between a traditional car and the new type of car which got launched. So I think it's there will be a big difference. You can see that the majority of the components have changed, will change. Some of them will lead to lightweighting of the vehicles. However, the infrastructure requirement, like if it is a lane discipline, then how do we make sure that the lanes are readable, or the lines on the roads are readable by the software in the car? And also, how do we ensure that the drivers do not overpower the car and try to take control where it is not needed? So I think it's a combination of the infrastructure in the vehicle, the infrastructure around, and also the compliance to the rules and regulations which the driver has to follow. Be it a car, be it a bus, be it a truck, or be it even a machine which is operating in a mine or even a agricultural equipment. That's how I would look at it.
Deepak, when we talk about off-highway vehicles or any vehicles, connectivity cannot be seen in isolation. Connected is going to come along with our progress, along with autonomy. So autonomy poses different, safety risks. Similarly, connectivity poses more of cyber security risk, but this one, autonomy poses more of a safety risk, or risk of accidents, etc. Looking at India condition, and in off-highway vehicle, do you think autonomy can be implemented even sooner than expected? Because you can easily, with connectivity, because you operate in a closed environment, specific environment, is it possible to start with a new kind of autonomy, that is remote controlled autonomy of the off-highway vehicles? How are we progressing in that direction? And do you think the connectivity, 5G coming in, will allow you to implement these kind of features, and how safer they can be?
I think it's a very important point you are raising, and something about which people talk a lot. And I want to mention to you that as a company, not in India, but outside, we have put some machines into use. But those applications were not about taking the operator out. Those applications were more from the safety application, because if you are working underground within a facility. So I remember when I worked in JCB UK, we were given a challenge by a customer who were breaking down an old railway station, and major part of that railway station was underground, under the earth, and they were worried from the safety point of view. And that is how we designed a machine for our customer, and it was put to application. In fact, it won a global award on engineering. So those applications are there in place. But what you are alluding to more on the autonomy side, today we have not reached that particular aspect, because we have, as was rightly alluded to, the connectivity sometimes remains a challenge, and it is not seamless. We notice that particularly in the eastern part and the northeast part of our country, even today we struggle with vehicles. So if I can give an example, in major part of the country, we have more than 90% connectivity. But in the parts of east and northeast, it comes down to almost 80%, which limits your ability to keep control over the machine. So I think it will be a few steps more before we reach there. But there is one other aspect of operator behavior, which is also equally important. In the past, the machines, particularly when they will be operated in a mine, the owner of the machine would not have any visibility of his or her machine. But today, because of the telematics-based platform, this data is available on a mobile phone. And this actually helps us improve the quality of operator behavior, not only from the use of the machine, from the safety point of view. It also allows us to build some inbuilt checks and balances. If a particular weight, which is not supposed to be lifted, even if the operator wants to lift that weight, an alert can be generated to the operator first, and then to the owner of the machine. So all these capabilities are there, and which I feel going forward will help people use the machines in most optimum manner, but more importantly in the most safe manner. But to your initial question of autonomy, I think we are still a few steps away from that. And as the infrastructure is more robustized, I am sure it will open more avenues for us to improve the autonomy that we provide.
Thank you, Deepak. Pratap, I'll come to you. We are talking about smart mobility, intelligent mobility. So we look at an integrated service inside mobility. How do you see that shaping up? What kind of services you think can be integrated to your mobility solutions? Do you think that could reduce probably the cost of ownership for the users? Probably you bring in a lot of embedded service, you get some revenue from your partners or something. Do you think some of these kind of features coming in?
So in the context of smart mobility, Nabil, one key element of it which is being not attended to at this point of time is the last mile connectivity. So mobility always talks about going from point A to point B, but the moment you reach point B, there is always that last bit of connectivity that is needed, be it reaching the exact location that you want to reach, or be it managing your parking given the constraints of parking in a country like ours. So that throws a huge potential in terms of delivering smart parking systems or smart traffic management, which then creates its own revenue streams for both the infrastructure providers. And from a cost of ownership perspective, already the vehicles are becoming smart in terms of identifying the driver behavior and the driving patterns, which then feeds back into the data of the car in terms of how the ECUs can adapt to a particular driving style of the driver and alert him in terms of how he should adapt himself given his driving conditions, which then improves the overall condition of the car. And also then you extend it further, it can be data-based insurance method, where the insurance cannot be a standard, deployed for every user. It can be customized based on the past data of the particular driver's driving ability and the vehicle of the health of the car. So that's how this is going to evolve in terms of the commercial implication for both the user and also the commercial revenue opportunity for the equipment and infrastructure providers.
Do you also see some kind of like retailers tying up with a particular brand, or a coffee shop chain coming up for joining, or a pharmaceutical company coming up joining? Like suppose you are on drive and you just want to get some medicine, or you want to order a coffee or burger, or just want to get a quick formal shirt and pant. You are on the way to a meeting. All these kind of thing can be possible with the with the connected thing evolving in India. And have you seen this kind of progress happening globally, and what kind of cost impact it has in terms of for the users, end users?
See, content is already being enabled in the car, like how you would consume content while you are at home or using your smart devices. So that is seamlessly getting integrated to your navigation system, which is part of your vehicle ecosystem. So when you are on the go and you would like to take a break and go and purchase a set of products and or go and consume something personal for you in terms of leisure and entertainment, that is now seamlessly integrated in the car, and based on the real-time data that is gathered in the car and dependent on the day of the week, the car itself will suggest to you that okay, this is Wednesday and it's 12 noon, and based on the past data, most probabilistically you are heading from this point to your point of destination, and these are your points of interest in between this route, and that gives the flexibility and options for the user to pick and choose, and then make his transportation the most efficient and smart one.
Thank you, Pratap. I'll come to you, Bhaskar. What are your partners' priorities for your connected car or connected vehicle projects? What do they look at?
Yeah. So Nabil, as I last time what we discussed about the agility and the flexibility, cross-border connectivity across, right? So this is something that they look at. Also, what happens is sometimes there are a lot of software optimizations happen. So they, the OEMs is always looking for something to push to make it more modern and more adapted every time. So we spoke about the V2X use cases, purchasing capacity using the TCUs that you have fitted in the car. So then it has to be something which always on and negotiating with the network always from the retailer point of view. Second is the data monetizations. So definitely we spoke about the different content provider. They are willing to expose their API and build the entire ecosystem where operators, the MNOs along with the OEMs can utilize that bandwidth for segmented approach on the retail side, right? So that data can be charged premium to the customer because somebody has to pay for it, right? Whether the automotive is going to pay or service provider or the end customer is something, it's still a debate today. But as per the value-added services, it has to be something which is again the seamless journey for the customer. And the data monetization is something which I just spoke about, right? How to monetize the data. So initially, if I talk about few years back, so there was no visibility of what data is doing in terms of analytics way. So people are just utilizing the TCU to generate some key engine parameters and key road-related information and all that. So right now it is going beyond those use cases. A lot of software utilizations and software updates happen over the year. So, and then again, if you don't have that connectivity capabilities, and when you send megabytes of data for per campaign, And if it is interrupted in between, then your entire campaign gets failed, right? So it's always good to talk about all those use cases, but definitely the demand is to have it always connected with huge data amount which is transmitting from the device, from the TCUs using the cloud, right?
Thank you,
Yeah.
Bhaskar. Suresh, I just want to understand. I think connectivity or connected feature is going to help all the way from consumer to the manufacturer. I just want to understand, how do you think connectivity is going to help you build smart automobiles at a lower cost or at a competitive cost? Because India is a market where cost matters. Do you think connectivity can enable you to develop and produce safer and smarter vehicles at a much lower cost than it was expected or otherwise you would have produced without connectivity, especially when we talk about 5G is coming up? And we are also talking about interconnectivity, means within the vehicles, how the parts are going to be connected.
Definitely. There is going to be, if you look at the total cost of ownership, there will be a huge impact. Now, when I say huge, I'm not talking about double-digit percentage, but today, with the sort of cost pressure we have, I would rather not to call it as a cost pressure. It is also, the cost versus value ratio, which we always look at. I feel that, and it's a proven thing that when you have connected vehicles, maybe you may have to place some additional rupees for buying the software linked related to it. But at an overall, the overall picture will definitely give the end consumer a cost advantage. If you look at it from a vehicle perspective, today we can very clearly know whether the driver is utilizing the vehicle well, or how good is the vehicle utilization. Is there a higher fuel consumption in that vehicle or not? Because of which the owner of the vehicle can take appropriate decisions. Now, let us give a little bit of it's not the direct example, but a related example. If you look at an AMT which ZF provides, it's proven that we are able to get 3 to 5% fuel efficiencies when you use an AMT in remote areas. This definitely gives a good payback to the owner who is going to buy a vehicle with an AMT in line against a person who buys a vehicle without an AM, with a manual transmission. So I think this can be extrapolated to other areas. It will be the management control which will help the end consumer to get the advantage of such connected vehicles to improve his cost performance and hence provide a lot more.
It has not only improved the fuel efficiency, it has also reduced the cost of ownership. So, what are the next other technology implementation that you see in short to long term that could be equally impactful when it comes to cost and efficiency advantage?
You can see very clearly that in the passenger car, the share of the AMTs are increasing by the day. So that's how it is improving. So similarly, we see that it's very soon that you will see such introductions of AMTs in the commercial vehicle space. The BS3 to BS4 change in the off-highway segment also is going to be one of the critical factors for improvement of technology when it comes to off-highway vehicles. Then, of course, the e-mobility on the buses, on the two-wheelers, and also the three-wheelers, which has more confined space of operations. I'm sure that those will be the new technologies which will come in. And as we start maturing with these technologies, the cost will definitely improve. And the best example we have is the mobile phones. We know when it was launched, what were the cost levels and what it is today, and how the features have improved. So I'm sure that we will go through a similar curve when it comes to the vehicles as well.
I'll come to you, Deepak. What's your thought when it comes to intra-vehicle connectivity in off-highway segment?
So there are two aspects to this. One is the intra-vehicle, in a sense, the central connectivity of an owner. Suppose at a site he has 10 to 15 machines, the individual data which is coming. The other element that you are speaking about is from the safety point of view. how we can position these machines. So certainly there are elements of geofencing, etc., that we can use to ensure that if their machines are operating in remote areas, we don't, or in a very close kind of environment, those are certainly available, and which are being used, particularly in some of the defense related applications. People are very concerned about how the machines are operating. But I would want to go back to a topic that you raised earlier, is on cost of ownership, that you spoke to, Suresh. I think that technology is going to afford us to dramatically improve the cost of ownership. I think that is a great opportunity there. Also improve the utilization of the machines, but more importantly, improve the uptime of the machines. And it is not only about cost of ownership, particularly on the off-highway projects. These machines are supporting projects of national importance, where the cycle time of the project becomes very important. And I'm sure that overall cost of those projects will come down. If a power plant can be started a day earlier, or a hydroelectric power plant can be started a day earlier, or a train project can be started a day earlier, the amount of money which is saved, not only for the particular company, but for the government, it can be huge. So I feel that the mobility is going to completely alter the cost of ownership point of view. And obviously on the asset front, I'll give an example that we give a dashboard to our major account customer, where we not only benchmark the performance of the 10 or 15 machines that major account customer has, we provide them the national average. So constantly the customer can monitor that versus the 160,000 machines, how his fleet of machines are being used. And that gives them an opportunity to invest more in training, or maybe get better quality operators. But somewhere this data becomes very, very important. So just on that front, I think the cost of ownership, I feel there's going to be a step change. And also from the fuel consumption point of view, there's going to be a step change as we go forward. And as Suresh alluded to, I think this BS4 transition, it is not only about the fuel part, but it's completely a new technology which is going to come on the ground. And that will help us create even more opportunities for us to harness the connectivity part and improve the cost of ownership further.
Thank you, Deepak. Let's one last question, because we are running out of time, and I would request the audience to post their question in the comment box. Our speakers are available and they will take them on individual basis. My final question is, looking at the current scenario, we're talking about smart mobility. How do you see, just brief comment from all of you, how do you see this smart mobility in India evolve in relation to electric mobility and safety? These are two major challenges that we are facing, and the other one is of course carbon emission. Looking these three factors in our mind, or the center of the discussion, how do you see this smart mobility evolving in India? Suresh?
Yeah, I think it's, very clearly that the importance given to safety has been increasing in the recent years, thanks to the statutes which have come in, and also our sensitivity towards safety has also improved a lot. How we are looking at safety today. Wearing safety belts a decade was always a challenge, but today you see that that compliance is almost 100%. Airbags have become more or less part and parcel of every car today. So I think safety is gaining more and more importance in the Indian market. So that will definitely grow. You can also see that in the trucks, there is a lot of regulations coming into the driver safety, how a cabin, what are the things which you need to have in a cabin, etc., which was not there in the past. So safety of the driver, safety of the passenger, and also, as I talked before, the safety of the pedestrian on the road becomes very, very important. So if to that extent, the vehicles have to have their infrastructure built. And then when it comes to connected vehicles, again, as we said before, it is not only the importance of just having a data, but how do we convert that data into information and react to it? That really helps the service provider to improve his performance. And as far as e-mobility is concerned, we can see that there are a lot of pockets where e-mobility has already been implemented. So these things will become good first implementation areas, which will over a period of time help us to grow which will help us to spread it into other areas as well. So I strongly believe that it is challenging days, but however, it is also interesting days to see these new technologies to be seen on the road, and we being more and more safe when we are either in a bus or in any other vehicle for that matter. Thank you, Nabil.
Yeah, Nabil. So you brought up two interesting topics. One is safety, and one in the context of electric mobility. Driver monitoring systems are finding their way into vehicles. So ability to detect drivers, ability to detect driver drowsiness, provide inputs to driver about the traffic conditions and smart traffic management, and all that is going to aid the safety aspect for both the driver, the occupants, and as well as the other vehicles on the road and other pedestrians and people on the road. Now, in terms of smart mobility in the context of electric mobility, smart mobility is very much integral part of electric mobility, because in the case of electric mobility, there is an infrastructure connected to electric mobility in terms of charging stations, or stations where you can swap and service your batteries, or you can exchange your vehicles if it is on a lease model. So smart mobility would connect to the overall ecosystem to provide the driver a seamless user experience and information about where he's positioned in context with the infrastructure, and how far he can go given the limitations of the battery lifetime, so that his route planning, be it pre-planned or dynamic, can be managed efficiently. And of course, the more the electric mobility infrastructure picks up, enhanced by smart mobility, then obviously the topic of emissions get addressed. So the adoption rates for e-mobility would rapidly increase, and people would start moving from ICE legacy vehicle models to electric vehicles.
Deepak, your thoughts?
I think all big tick mark for all the three. First of all, safety. Absolutely, it's a given, but the e-mobility part really helps us strengthening that. Emissions, I think it's a responsibility all of us are carry. And as the norms become stricter and stricter, the only way to enforce and ensure that even when the vehicle is run for years together, those norms are adhered to and met can be only governed using the e-connectivity platform. The third part, which I also want to touch upon, is the ease of use. On our NXT series of excavators, we provide a 7.5-inch screen, and it is like an iPad. So rather than working with the knobs and the person who is operating the machine can use a touch screen, and this improves the quality of not only improves the quality of the way they're operating, but also from the governance point of view. You don't want the person to idle the machine, because if the machine is idle for many hours, then again the fuel is wasted. So how do we control these aspects and make it more and more fine? The last bit is for the owner. The visibility that you provide is enormous. For example, we give a message, the good morning message, where the owner gets a dashboard on his mobile, where he or she is able to see how the machines were used, what was the idling time, what was the operator behavior, and we can do a lot more on this front. So I think the way to go is on the e-connectivity, e-mobility side, and it will help us harness this important resource in a more frugal manner, but I would say in a more responsible manner.
Thank you, Deepak. Bhaskar, your take.
I think Nabil, most of it is covered already by the co-panelists. So I have nothing to add, but my only the last cent would be what I felt in terms of my customer segment on the connectivity side, that these features was enabled earlier in the part of the premium segment. Now it is going beyond that, and it is coming to the medium and the low cost segment for all these features and functionality to cover on the aspects, right? So this is what I'm willing to add. That's all.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining in today's conversation. The outcome is that the smart mobility means it should be clean mobility, it should be safe mobility, and it should be convenient to use and also give better ROI. Thank you so much once again for joining in. Stay tuned for another exciting session on ET Auto Connected Vehicle Virtual Summit.
Thank you, Nabil, and thank you to all the panelists.